Hey everybody, Jazzy here. Here is a recap of Year 9 of Thrill of the Grill, my solo Warley World over on Twitch. Early autumn, I was hitting up the Mosaic biome for some moonrick. We don't really have a big setup at the Moonstone yet, so I'm still relying on the boulders that occasionally spawn in this meteor field. It's worth making a sweep every once in a while if you are hurting for moonrock, like I am from making these occupants to mark up the claw spawners. We got the suspicious boulder here that contains the celestial orb, which is usually really important in a megabase world because you need it to build the celestial portal. Since I'm not using the portal for a while, I was more or less ignoring it until a viewer named Maxwell Stewart mentioned that they used the celestial orb to keep track of Chester. This is the perfect use for the orb because its location is always updated on the map. So as long as we're not crafting moonrock idols, we might as well put the orb to good use as a Chester GPS. It was kind of a mind-blown moment. This is why I stream. Day 568, I'm fighting Klaus when a tree guard very nonchalantly wanders through the fight. Tree guards can actually be a threat here, as I have learned in the past. If Klaus walks over a tree, then the tree guard will start to attack Klaus, at which point the deer will aggro on the tree guard. The tree guard can easily kill the deer, which would enrage Klaus. At that point, unless you're feeling up for a 45-minute fight, which you will probably still lose, it's pretty much over. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and we finished the fight without a hitch. The loot was scales and a blue Fun Cat print. The amazing thing about Winter's Feast is that you can easily get all 3 Fun Cat blueprints without ever fighting Toadstool. I think that happened in this world. Day 569, I'm doing my usual birchnut harvest with Bearger when we get a Hound wave. I definitely did not want fire hounds around the logs, but I didn't have time to get back to base, so I just ran to a nearby road. Even in late game, you can still manage Hound waves with enough speed, which is why roads are really important. Try to line their attacks up as much as possible to give yourself a small attack window. Usually you can only sneak in like 1 hit, but eventually the hounds will start dropping. Always try to go for the fire and ice hounds first because even though they bite a little harder, they got less HP, and killing one will create a momentary distraction with the other hounds, which helps a lot with crowd control. After that diversion, I'm back farming wood when the absolute unspeakable happens. A poison birchnut kills Bearger. I can't believe that in the hundreds of days I kept him alive, I never once thought to heal the poor bastard. Of course he'd slowly get whittled down by all the whipping, but did it have to happen halfway through a harvest? Well, for Warley, that means gearing up with honey season pierogies, luxury axes, and weather panes. I'm gonna chop the rest of these trees myself and just tornado any evil trees that get in my way. It took another couple days to get rid of the other trees, but I wanted to get to them before they grew back small. Day 573, I'm planting a crop of corn, carrot, and potato. I'm mainly doing this to get a giant corn for my showroom, but I can also use the extra corn to make powder cakes, which will be my primary food for seasoning. While we're waiting, I spawned what will be my final batch of grass geckos for the pen. I think that for the amount of grass I use on a daily basis, somewhere around 20 geckos will be a good amount. My hope is that the pen won't overproduce items and need constant maintenance. I think I overdid it on my last megabase world, and I definitely paid for that because I was always in that pen picking up grass. A couple days later, we get our giant corn. I'm also planting 2 full plots of garlic in the adjacent plot, which will restore a ton of growth formula and manure to the soil. Garlic is a good veggie to just throw into a plot if you have the empty space. It's always in season, it restores a lot of nutrients, and it only eats compost, aka rot. Plus, Warley will never say no to garlic seasoning. I'm also finally turfing up the area around the gecko pen. The only really important consideration here is that all of the turf not spawn lure plants. The last thing I need is some eye plants nibbling at my geckos inside the pen. So I'm using a combination of moon crater turf and cave rock. I think it looks nice. I'm also transplanting the grass tufts to right outside the pen so that I can still harvest manually if needed. Picking the grass here will not spawn more geckos because it is within 5 tiles of other geckos. Another giant crop I want to work on this winter is asparagus. I don't have enough seeds to make giants, but I can easily get 2 seeds from each plant by adding a bit of compost to the plot and just taking care of it. Like garlic, asparagus is also really easy to feed with rot. and winter farming will require less regular watering because the ambient temperature will prevent the soil from naturally evaporating. While we're waiting on that to grow, I'm going to fill my crop zone with stone fruit, where the grass tufts used to be. They're not sprouts, although I suppose they should have been, but I really just wanted to have a group of bushes that was close to where I would pass by often so that I could harvest them as frequently as possible. And guess what? We get 2 seeds from each asparagus plant. Surprise, surprise. Next batch will be giants. Let's pair them with equal parts potato and carrot for a self-fertilizing combo. And more giants. I love how winter just became one of the best seasons for farming. Day 591, I'm doing the Moonstone event. And I know that I've always got this internal debate going on whether I should farm werepigs in my pig farm or go to the Moonstone during a full moon. But the truth is, you could do both. Werepigs will keep spawning during the Moonstone event, so it's really not that hard to pick off a few while you wait for the event to end. I don't need like 32 large meats, but a handful of meat and skin is appreciated. So I can kill a werepig with 8 hits of a dark sword, and if I wear bone armor, then the werepig will only be able to attack 1 time before I kill it. So as long as I make sure that the bone armor isn't on cooldown, I can just tank them into oblivion. Day 593 is another claws fight. The loot is 2 lights and a mandrake. I'm also trying to actually collect some antlers this winter. I haven't yet run out of antlers during the year, but the supply is definitely starting to dwindle with all these claws fights going down. In spring, I'm planting some dragonfruit with a few different combinations of crops. On one side, I'm putting it with onion and garlic, and on the other side I'm planting it with durian and watermelon. The second group will not be a perfect combination, but it should provide enough nutrients to make the majority of them giant, even if the nutrients fail one growth phase. I'm really interested to see how quickly I can grow dragon fruit with the new farm system, because dragon pie could very easily become a staple of Warley's diet. While that's growing, I'm crafting up some turf at my terra firma tamper in preparation for the next big build. Have you looked at these recipes? Some of them are unbelievably cheap. For example, forest turf is a pine cone plus twig, and deciduous turf, which I adore, is a twig plus birch nuts. Considering all the extra acorns I'm farming with deciduous trees, it makes a lot of sense to craft the surplus into turf. And time-wise, it will eventually save literally hours of digging up natural turf around the world. Everything I need to build is already here. No pitchfork necessary. As expected, not all of the crops turned giant, but even still, this harvest is going to be massive. 13 onions, 20 garlic, 14 watermelons, 11 durians, and 25 dragon fruit. I think Warley just found a new staple dish. I'll use the extra garlic for some beefy greens and the rest of the food for dragon pie filler. I don't have a ton of twigs at the moment, so I'm happy to put the rest of this crop to good use. I can't wait to flex with a full stack of dragon pie in my bundle. It will probably be better than beefy greens in the long run because of the increased spoilage time. Day 605, I smashed a lure plant that popped up near the Oasis, and it barfed up stacks upon stacks of stone fruit. I should probably be more careful when leaving items on the ground. Curious how much of this got digested by the time I got over there. Anyways, I'm finally turfing up the Oasis zone. This world, I'm going to treat this whole area as a completely non-functional build with tons of Winter's Feast decorations. It'll mostly be a combination of deciduous and forest turf. I think it's going to eventually look very nice with festive planters and Winter's Feast tables that will display a variety of different dishes that you can cook up in the mason oven. By day 610, I have sunk quite low in my desperation to get a Krampus sack. And until I get one, I'm going to be putting down Glommer after every full moon. Killing Glommer gives 50 naughtiness points, which will automatically summon Krampus. I just need to be careful and do this somewhere without any important items, because Krampi can steal pretty much anything before they despawn. Well, that didn't work. Let's kill another class. The loot, a mandrake, and royal jelly. Good God, this has become quite improbable. I really hope my luck turns around soon. Oh well, time to take my piggyback down to the ruins again for a summer of clearing. The more experience I'm getting with the double bone armor, the less damage I find myself taking. With these broken clockwork zones, I basically go straight for the bishop and tank its attacks by swapping between bone armors. As long as I can dodge the rook charges, I can avoid taking any actual damage. It's good to save the rooks for last anyway, because they will break all the broken clockworks for me. not to mention the huge damage they do to other damaged clockworks. Once their job is done, I can take out the last rook standing. It's quite efficient, to say the least. Ancient Guardian dead, day 628. The loot is underwhelming, just a bit of fragments and a crown. Oh well. Ruins are cleared and I'm back at the station. I'm gonna bring back a bundle of construction amulets, deconstruction staves, and thulecite walls. I'm also making a Houndius and refreshing my lazy explorer. I like to save the labyrinth for last because I can quickly clear the ornate chests by teleporting around to all of them, and then just deconstruct the lazy explorer back at the station and craft a new one with orange gems. And now it's time to go home. I'm very excited to get back to this Winter's Feast build with an entire autumn in front of us. Hope you're enjoying the recap videos, and maybe we'll catch you live next time over on Twitch. Take care.